Hi guys, it's Izzy and welcome back to a new video. You may notice some changes. I've had a haircut. I did have an existential crisis about it because I was like, oh my god, why did I cut my hair? But having long hair and being chronically ill are just not two things that can exist. So short hair is much more convenient. I don't know how I feel about it. I also got new glasses. I mean, they kind of look the same, but they've just got silver bits on them now. And ignore my wonky eyebrows because I did a terrible job at filling them in. So yeah, I look different. Oh look, I'm even wearing a necklace. Wow, I'm so fancy. And it has been like 6 weeks since I last filmed, despite saying I was going to make regular content. But you know what? My body has been making many protests. So it's been difficult, but I'm here today to film the mid-year book freakout tag. I'll link like the bulk post or whatever with the questions in it below. And I don't know who the original creator is, but yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. Sorry if I seem awkward or anything. I don't know. I feel a bit like out of touch with filming. And I also feel weird with short hair, but you know, we're vibing. So yeah, I've read, how many books have I read this year? I made my Goodreads goal, I think 80 books this year, which compared to the 200 books I read last year is not that many, but like, I've been doing other things. I'm teaching myself Korean. Wow, we stand a multi-bilingual queen. Just kidding. I can say like, 안녕하세요. So, wow. Just kidding. I can say more than that. But yeah, I'm teaching myself Korean and doing art and stuff like that. So I haven't been reading as much, but I've read 44 books this year and I'm like close to finishing 2 more. So I'm not too unhappy with that. I feel like that's good. I'm apparently 2 books ahead of schedule. So I guess I'm on track to read 80 books this year. But without further ado, let's get on with the questions. The first one being, what is the best book you've read so far in 2021? And if you watched my like reading update video I did a while ago, then you will probably know the answer to this question. But it is, ooh, we've got a lot of books here, sorry. got to dig, is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. This book is wonderful. It's a book about our main character, Grace Porter, who finishes her PhD in astronomy. This is an adult book, by the way. And she gets married in Vegas while drunk. Excuse me, my phone is making noise. Shush. She gets married in Vegas while drunk to a girl she just met. And we go from there. And she's kind of having an existential crisis about what to do now that she's finished with her education, which she's been in for like her whole life, and like, what do you do when you can no longer equate your academic success with your worth as a person? And gonna be honest, this book exposed me. I feel exposed, so can you not? I just like connect to Grace Porter so much, and this is a book that is so beautifully written that explores like value, like self-worth and like burnout, and also being a person of colour in the STEM industry, while being a woman of colour in the STEM field. And then it's also got a beautiful sapphic relationship that starts off with them being married in Vegas and then they have to get to know each other, which is a trope we see a lot for the heterosexuals, but not one that we see for the sapphics. So that was really cool. And this is just like one of the most beautifully written books I've ever read in my life. Every sentence like was just beautiful. Like, I don't know what Morgan Rogers did, but they managed to make the most mundane things sound beautiful. And this book was just so comforting while also being kind of hitting a bit too close to home. But yeah, when I explain it, it doesn't, I feel like I don't do it justice, but it's just like the most touching book and the most connected I've felt to a book, while still like loving it, aside from the fact that I really connect to it, if that makes sense. And like, Morgan Rogers is just like the most talented writer ever. Like, every sentence was like a warm blanket being laid over me. So yeah, this is like an all-time favourite. And also the other favourite book I've read this year is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo, which is the second book in the King of Scars trilogy. Why am I calling it a trilogy? It's a duology. This is the second and final book in the duology. And this exceeded all my expectations. I'm not gonna say what this is about in case you haven't read King of Scars, but sorry, I'm not holding this up, it's like such a chunky book. But this book, just from start to finish, was like perfect. It was all I could ask for a conclusion novel, and also like every character like ended where I wanted them to be. Like every character had such a clear, beautiful arc that was just so like well defined but still so natural. And like the politics, like the fantastical politics in this was so good that it's raised my standard for like political based fantasy books so much, because like who's doing it like Leigh Bardugo? Like if you're a fan of like political fantasy, like I cannot recommend this duology enough. You do have to have read the Shadow and Bone trilogy, like the Grisha trilogy, and it's probably best to have read the Six of Crows duology, as this kind of spoils what happens in that. So I would read those books first, just in case you haven't already. But yeah, this was just a perfect conclusion and a perfect sequel, and I just could like, just everything I wanted was in this. Like I can't give you one complaint. Like literally none. And so that is a perfect book to me. And also this is the like Illumicrate special edition, and like it's so beautiful. Like the naked hardback is so beautiful, and it says "We're all monsters now" on the spine. And yeah, this was also another book that weirdly felt very apt to my life, and I was feeling a little bit exposed with this book too. So can they not? Like, can they not at me? Like, so yeah, moving on to the next question, which is the best sequel you've read so far in 2021. I'm not going to mention Rule of Wolves because I just mentioned Rule of Wolves. So I don't know why, but does this not have like the worst book you've read so far this year? Am I just being dumb? Does this tag just not include that? If you're wondering, it was Anna K by Jenny Lee. That was the worst book I read so far this year. That book was just so boring. Like I just wanted it to be over. Luckily I've not really read any other bad books apart from that. Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. That was also bad. But sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. See, this is what happened. I'm a hot mess. But best sequel you've read so far this year, and that is... Oh, why are all these books so heavy? I am weak. Have you seen my noodle arms? I cannot hold these up, but it's Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. I have the, I don't know, collector's first edition. Like, it doesn't have a dust jacket, like it's just the naked hardback, and I have the matching one for Chain of Gold, which is also like one of the most beautiful books ever. Sorry, I did a terrible job at showing you that. But yes, Chain of Iron, the sequel to Chain of Gold, which is the second book in the Last Hours trilogy by Cassandra Clare. This follows the children of the characters in the Infernal Devices series, like Clockwork Prince, Clockwork Princess, and Clockwork Angel. And I would die for these kids. So yeah, if you don't know, it's set in like 1800s London, and it takes place in the Shadowhunter universe. You have to have read the Infernal Devices to read this series, but I wouldn't really say you need to have read any of the other books by Cassandra Clare, like the Mortal Instruments, because I hate that series and I really don't think you need to read it to read this series. So if you're interested in this series but you feel intimidated by the amount of books Cassandra Clare has published, then just read the Infernal Devices, which is a semi-good series. I enjoyed it. I know some people like are obsessed with it, but it wasn't that for me, but it was still a good read, so I would recommend it. But The Last Hours is just god tier, and this sequel destroyed me. Cassandra Clare really said, I don't want characters to be happy, ever. So that's how I would summarise this book. My only complaint was that it was a bit chunky, like it went on a bit long, like there were some parts that I just think could have been condensed, but I'm so like excited for Chain of Thorns, but also like, is it going to destroy me? Like the answer is yes. Am I ready for it? The answer is no. I will never be ready for it. But I'm just obsessed with this series, and I was a bit worried that after like how much I love Chain of Gold, that like Chain of Iron wouldn't live up. And while I do love Chain of Gold more, just because I think it was just as a book better, like it just had a better structure. Like second books always struggle a bit with structure, in my opinion. But for a second book in a trilogy, this book was fantastic. Usually I don't like second books. So yeah. Gosh. Can you understand what I'm saying? I don't know. Next question. Do you like my BTS? BT21 phone case. Isn't it cute? New release you haven't read yet but want to, and that is Mr. Impossible by Maggie Stiefvater, which is the second book in the Dreamers trilogy. The first book being Call Down the Hawk, which I loved and was one of my favourite books of 2019, and I just reread it like last month in preparation for Mr. Impossible. So I'm currently reading Love and Other Natural Disasters by Misa Segura, which I'm loving, and then after that I think Mr. Impossible will be my next read. I'm so excited for it. I think Call Down the Hawk was a work of art. Like Maggie Stiefvater's brain is like insane, like no one's doing it like her. And yeah, if you loved The Raven Cycle, then I highly recommend reading the Dreamer trilogy, Call Down the Hawk being the first book. And yeah, I'm really excited for Mr. Impossible. It's just a long read and one you have to concentrate a lot for due to the style of writing, at least for me. So that's why I haven't got around to it yet, but I'm so excited because Call Down the Hawk was just so fantastic. So yeah. The next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and to be honest, I'm not keeping up with a ton of releases, just because like my reading like pace is quite slow, and I'm on a book buying ban, which I have pretty much kept to aside from my monthly Illuma Crate books. But yeah, I haven't been keeping up with releases a ton as I'm trying to just like actually read the books I own. It is somewhat successful. But the two books I'm most excited for, the first being Girls of Fate and Fury. I don't know if it's still set to come out in 2021. It says on Goodreads it is, but I'm not sure if it's going to come out early 2022. But based on Goodreads it says 2021, so we're going to go with that. And that is the third and final book in the Girls of Paper and Fire trilogy, which is a very, very special book series to me, one I love so much. And I love Natasha Nagan, the author of it. She actually has the same genetic condition as I do, the same like connective tissue disorder, and a bunch of other conditions that we share, and like she is such a role model for me, and makes me believe that I can be an author someday too, maybe. But she's just such a cool lady and I love her so much. Follow her on Twitter. But yeah, Girls of Paper and Fire is a fantasy trilogy that follows Lay as she is taken to the palace to become a concubine for the Demon King, and it's about hope and survival in like the darkest times. It does contain sexual assault, but nothing super graphic because Natasha Nagan is a survivor herself. But check the trigger warnings for sure for this series. But it's one of the most beautiful series I've read. It's a book series that gives me hope and strength, even though it's like quite dark, and it has like the most beautiful sapphic relationship ever, and I'm so obsessed with it. So yeah, I'm super excited for that. And then Ari and Aristotle and Dante. I keep forgetting the title. Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World, which is the sequel to Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, which I believe came out in like 2014, and is a book I am obsessed with and I love. I know it's like classic like YA coming of age, but it's one of the books that actually aged really well from that kind of period, and it's a very special book to me. I think the writing is beautiful. It's one of the first queer books I read, maybe even the first, I don't really know, but yeah, it really opened my eyes to things, and it's just like the most beautiful contemporary novel. It's like, oh, I just love it so much. If you never read it, what are you doing with your life? Read it. And yeah, Benjamin Alire Sands, the author, has been talking about a sequel like basically ever since Ari and Dante was first published. And I'm so excited that we're finally getting it, and I can't wait to read it. I am a little bit nervous because I think Ari and Dante, like the first book, is to me almost a perfect book. And so I just really hope the second book lives up to my expectations. I'm going to try and lower my expectations so I don't get too, like, there's some expectations a book can never reach, so I'm going to try not to do that. But yeah, I'm so excited for that book. And yeah, so those two books are the two books that are the most exciting to me for the rest of the year. The biggest disappointment, and for me that was, where are you? Girl Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is the second book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I believe it's going to have just 3 books, but I'm not sure if it might have a 4th book, I'm not sure. But it's a YA murder mystery series that follows our main character Pip, who decides for her like A-level project to investigate a murder in her town, where she believes the, like, what's the word? Like the person they said did it didn't do it. I can't think of the word. That's like the criminal. It's not the right word, but yeah, I love that book. It was one of my favourite books of 2020. It was just fantastic. And this book was just okay. I gave it like 3.5 stars at least, so it wasn't bad in any way. It's just that the first book was so good, and I just feel like this book missed the mark a bit. So I hope it can kind of like get back on track for the third book. But yeah, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't what I was hoping for. And the next question is biggest surprise, and there's 2 for that. The first one being Parachute by Kelly Yang. This is a contemporary novel I picked up on a whim. Like I think I just saw it on my library, like my library's audiobook app, and I was just like, okay. But it was really, really impactful, and so I'm just going to read you the Goodreads description because like I don't really know how to describe this book, because I think maybe because I went in with like no expectations, that's why I enjoyed it so much. But Goodreads describes it as about 2 girls navigating wealth, power, friendship, and trauma. They're called parachutes, teenagers dropped off to live in private homes and study in the US while their wealthy parents remain in Asia. Claire Wang never thought she'd be one of them until her parents pluck her from her privileged life in Shanghai and enroll her at a high school in California. Suddenly she finds herself living in a stranger's house with no one to tell her what to do for the first time in her life. She soon embraces her newfound freedom, especially when the hottest and most eligible parachute, Jay, asks her out. Danny Dela Cruz, Claire's new host sister, couldn't be less thrilled that her mum rented out a room to Claire. An academic and debate-themed star, Danny is determined to earn her way into Yale, even if it means competing with privileged kids who are buying their way to the top. When her debate coach starts working with her privately, Danny's game plan veers unexpectedly off course. Desperately trying to avoid each other under the same roof, Danny and Claire find themselves on a collision course, intertwining in deeper and more complicated ways as they grapple with life-altering experiences. Kelly Yang weaves together an unforgettable modern immigrant story about love, trauma, family, corruption, and the power of speaking out. So, yeah, that did a much better job at explaining what that book is about than I did. But it is about kind of finding your voice and what to do when it feels like you have no choice but to be silent, when people in higher positions than you abuse you in some way, or especially with girls, like boys who you know will never be condemned because they'll always believe the boy over you. And I just think this was such a powerful book, and I just, it was it was just beautiful and just so powerful, and I highly recommend picking it up because it's definitely underrated. And the second book that was a kind of a surprise is Show Us Who You Are by Elle McNichol. I read her last book, A Kind of Star, which was her first book, last year, and it was one of my favourite books of 2020. It was a middle grade book about an autistic girl who decides to gosh, my brain is not working today. I can't think of the word. She wants to have a memorial for witches in her Scottish town who were wrongly killed during the witch trials, and it's about finding a voice and knowing that you're perfect the way you are. And that's kind of what Show Us Who You Are is about, but this is kind of with a sci-fi element because it follows main character Cora, who meets her soon-to-be best friend Adrian. Cora is autistic and Adrian has ADHD, and Adrian's father has a company called Pomegranate that makes like holograms of people, so you can like visit them after they're dead and stuff. And so yeah, it has a futuristic twist, but this book just like I thought I couldn't love her work more than A Kind of Spark, but this was just perfection. It spoke to me on such a deep level, and Elle McNichol somehow managed to weave eugenics into a middle grade book about holograms, and it's a book about knowing your worth, knowing your value, being confident in who you are, showing people who you are, and not letting other people control your life because of what they say. And I think it's a book that I want every child who has ever felt different to read, because even at 22 it spoke to me on such a deep level and was so impactful for me and like made me feel so much. And I think if I'd have read this book as a kid, it would have meant the whole world to me to know that who I am is fine, and it's who I am, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I just think this book is so yeah, read this please, I'm begging you. Everybody read this book. The sun seems to have gone in, so thanks England. Okay, next question. Favourite new author? This is kind of cheating because it's supposed to be new to you or like new debut author, but TBH, I haven't really read from many new authors, or like I've only read one book, so I can't really say that they're my favourite. So I'm going with Elle McNichol because she's become a permanent auto-buy author just after 2 books. And technically her debut book was last year, so she's still pretty new. So it's fine. Read A Kind of Spark and Show Us Who You Are, please. I'm begging you. Elle is also autistic, and so these books are her own voices, and she is phenomenal. I love her so much. She's such a cool woman, and I love her books. And I'm also going with, where is it? Adiba Jaigerda, because Honey and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating came out this year, this book, and The Henna Wars, which I do have but I forgot to get off the shelf, came out last year, which I also loved. So yeah, I make the rules, and I'm choosing those 2 authors because they've both had debut books in like the last year, basically. Okay, I make the rules, so you can't tell me no. Oh, I'm such a hot mess. But Honey and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating was kind of a surprise. I knew I was going to love it, but I didn't know I was going to love it too much. It's about 2 Bengali teens living in Ireland who decide to fake date for various reasons. And if you are a fan of sapphics or fake dating, this book is for you, lads, because this book was perfection. I loved it so much. I loved it even more than The Henna Wars. I'm obsessed with both Honey and Issue. Like, I love them so much. Would die for them. And this book was just perfect. And it also tackles like toxic friendships and like friends who stop you from being who you are and don't support you, and like biphobia, and also like racism in the more subtle ways that it can, like the microaggressions that can break you down, while still maintaining levity and lightness and being a beautiful, fun contemporary. So it's just perfect. Yeah, and Adiba is just a fantastic writer. So yes, newest fictional crush. I don't have like, I don't know. I don't get a ton of crushes on fictional characters like in books and stuff. But characters that really stood out to me were Zoya from Rule of Wolves, because she was just such a legend. And like every time she was on page, I was just like, go murder him. Yes, Zoya, step on me and I would thank you. You know what I mean? And also August and Jane from One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, because I'm just obsessed with their romance. So it's more like I have a crush on their relationship because it's so good. So if you haven't read One Last Stop, read it. It's a adult sapphic, new adult sapphic rom-com about two girls who fall in love, and one of them is stuck on a New York subway train and is stuck in time, and she's from the 70s. So yeah, that's cool. And this was also a great book. If you read Red, White and Royal Blue, read this. It was a win for the sapphics. And Casey McQuiston is just a fantastic author. Okay, Izzy, stop rambling. We gotta speed this up. Newest favourite character, probably the ones I just mentioned, but Zoya isn't technically new, so I'm gonna go with Grace Porter from Honey Girl, just because I think Grace Porter, like I think when Morgan Rogers wrote this book, she like looked inside my brain and then wrote this. That's how connected I feel to Grace Porter, okay? I'm obsessed with her, would die for her, love her. And also just the whole gang in Chain of Iron, but they're not technically new because this is the second book, so it doesn't really count either. But these are my children and I would die for them, okay? What is this video? Like what am I doing here? A book that made you cry. I don't cry that easily at books. I cry at movies a lot though. But two books that made me cry. Show Us Who You Are. Friendship was so beautiful. It made me sob. I feel like I forgot to mention this book is about friendship as well. Like that's the core part of this book as well. And it was so beautiful. It made me cry. And also Rule of Wolves, because a character dies, and I died a little bit with it. It was actually more like the characters left behind that I was sad about, because like, oh, the things they said was so touching. Like the way Lee Bardugo wrote it was just, oh, it made me cry quite a bit, and I just cried at the end because I just loved everyone and I just wanted them to be happy. Oh my god, I hate myself. Okay. A book that made you happy. For this one I'm going to go with Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the third book in the, is it called the Brown Sisters series? Which is a adult rom-com series that follows three sisters. The first book is Get a Life, Chloe Brown. The second one is Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and the third one is At Your Age, Eve Brown. I've read the first and third one. The first one has a chronically ill character. Chloe is chronically ill, which is awesome, and a great rep. And in this book, both the main character, Eve Brown, and the love interest are autistic, and its own voices, and I loved it so much. I didn't think a book like this would exist and be published, and I think it's so cool that it is. And yeah, I felt like super connected to it, and I don't love rom-coms a ton, but this book just made me feel warm and fuzzy, and I just loved the main characters so much. They were such a joy to kind of like read their interactions, and yeah, it just made me happy. That's why it's the answer to the question, Izzy. Duh. The most beautiful book you've bought or received this year. And like I said, I haven't really bought any books this year, but I do get the monthly Illumicrate book. I get the book box, like the book only box. Sorry, I can't speak. And like every edition is a special edition, so they're all beautiful. But I'm going with In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland, which I am super excited to read. But I just love like the sprayed edges in this beautiful flower pattern, which I think is so cool. And the inside is also beautiful. It's got this like absolutely stunning artwork, and like, I'm sorry, like in a book, like this should be in a gallery. Honestly, like the camera is not doing it justice, but trust me, it's beautiful. So, also Rule of Wolves, that's beautiful too, but you've seen it a bunch of times. So, oh, and it came with this like artwork, which is the author's letter. So yeah, and it came with bookmarks too, which Illumicrate books don't usually, and they were beautiful as well. So yeah, that one's got the top spot. And the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And honestly, a ton. I'm so behind with books I want to read, but just like off the top of my head, I want to read the second book of the Red Scrolls Magic series. I forget what it's called, like the Book of the White, I think it is. But they don't have audiobooks, or at least not in England. So I haven't been able to read it, which sucks because I was so excited for that book because I loved the Red Scrolls of Magic so much. So yeah, I don't know when I'll be able to read that because it doesn't have an audiobook and I can't really read physically at the moment, so that kind of sucks. But also Alatsoe by Darcy Badger, is it? If that's wrong, I'll put it on the screen, I'm sorry. But that book just sounds really awesome, and I really want to read it. Also The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake. That book I've just heard nothing but good things about, and I'm just like super hyped to read it. And also The Greatest Shame of My Life, which is Hollow Box by Jessica Townsend. Yes, this was my most anticipated book of last year. Have I read it yet? No. I read half of it, and then I got too ill to read physically, and then I was like, no, I've read the first two books physically, I have to read the third book physically to appreciate, like I need to, you know, when you want to enjoy a book so much, you don't want to read it when you're in a bad place, like mentally or physically, because you want to enjoy it so much. And like that's me with Hollow Fox. Is like I'm so, like I know it's gonna be like it. Well, from the half I read, it was incredible, just like Nevermore and Wondersmith. But like I just haven't read it because I want I want the reading experience to be perfect, okay? And to be honest, my life is a hot mess, like the hottest of messes. So I haven't got around to it yet, but fingers crossed I read that by the end of the year, because otherwise I will have to go into hiding and change my name from shame. So yeah, that's where we're at. Honestly, what was this video? I gave you a hot mess last time and I'm giving you a hot mess this time. At least it's consistency, okay? That's about all I can promise at the moment, because I am always a hot mess. But yeah, if you're wondering, my life is a disaster. Physically, I'm a mess. Mentally, I'm a mess. So you'll get videos when I'm slightly less of a mess. If you can believe it, this is me on a good day. This is me being less of a mess than I usually am. So God help my family. Oh, what is this? So yeah, hopefully I'll make more videos at some point, but when that will be, only time will tell. If there are any videos you'd like to see from me, I'd really appreciate you leaving a comment, because I'm feeling a little bit like uninspired, because like I don't want to do wrap-ups because I'm just not doing that consistently, and like I'm not filming videos consistently enough. And I've done like my Pride book recommendations for June, and like I've done this mid-year book recap tag and stuff. So if there's any videos you'd like me to do, please do let me know. I would really appreciate it, like literally anything. Let me know in the comments, and please leave a comment, they make my day. and I really appreciate everyone who stuck around my channel and still watching my videos. If you leave a thumbs up and stuff, it really makes my day. And I just reached 1,300 subscribers, which is really cool. I worry that people will forget about me because I'm so inconsistent, but there's not much I can do about it because my health is really, really bad, unfortunately. So yeah, I really appreciate everyone who sticks around and still watches my videos and still supports me. If you want... Sir, can you not? Sorry, that's my dog. Sir, can you not? But yeah, if you want to see me a bit more, I'm a bit more consistent on Twitter, and I give more regular updates about what I'm reading and what I'm doing and how much of a hot mess my life is. So yeah, you can check me out over there where I'm slightly better, and you can follow me on Goodreads because I put everything that I read on Goodreads as well. So I don't know, if you care about what I'm reading, then follow me there, I guess. But yeah, that's everything. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I really do appreciate every person who supports me. It means so much to me, like I can't even tell you. And yeah, I hope my face doesn't look too round with my new short hair, and that my glasses look good. Wow, I'm so vain. I'm not, I just keep looking at myself in the viewfinder. I'm like, who is she? Do I like her? Jury's out. But yeah, also, if you're teaching yourself Korean, send me a message. I need people to talk to in Korean because I don't know anyone who speaks Korean, and I just talk to myself all day and my poor family who don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, that's fun. Anyway, I will see you in my next video, whenever that may be, whatever that may be. I'll see you then, hopefully. Please stick around. I love you guys so much, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Wear a mask, have your vaccine, drink water, eat, stay healthy, have a lovely time. Anyways, okay, I'm actually going to shut them now. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!